Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Top Left Corner. I'm Finn Lyons, as always, here. I'm going to be doing a bit of a shorter episode today. I'm a bit under the weather, but the regular season just started, so I feel like I had to do an episode. There's a lot to talk about, so we'll get into it here. Starting with some contract news. There's been a lot since last week. Obviously, we talked last week about the Swayman contract negotiation and sort of the goalie situation in Boston, which we got to see unfold last night. Obviously, Swayman did get signed, but they started Korpisalo last night against the Panthers, and it went really bad. 4 goals in the first period against Korpisalo. So, yeah, Boston has to be happy that they got Swayman signed because clearly – if last night is an indicator, of course, one game is a very, very, very small sample size. But, 4 goals in one period, 6-4. I think the final score was off the top of my head. And, so maybe Korpisalo won't rebound with this improved Bruins defense in front of him. Or maybe it was just a fluky one bad game. So we'll have to see. But getting Swayman signed is a great thing for the Bruins. I think it is a good contract for both the Bruins and him. $8.25 million for the next 8 seasons. It's a great deal. He got the money he wanted. The Boston Bruins didn't have to spend a crazy amount of money on him. Maybe looking at $9 to $10 million. So keeping that under wraps will help them in their salary cap situation as the next few seasons of trying to contend go on, especially as the cap is set to go up next season. And, of course, hopefully will continue to go up throughout the remainder of his deal. So I think it's great that it got done for the Bruins, great for Swayman. Finally gets his chance to show what he can do in the starting role full time. And especially if Korpisalo is going to play that bad night in and night out, he'll probably be playing close to 60, 65 games this year. So nice to have that drama behind them. And it was nice to see a resolution. It actually, funnily enough, dropped while I was watching the Swayman episode of the NHL Face-Off series on Amazon Prime, which I talked about a few episodes ago. Another Bruins goalie got signed. At least former Bruins goalie, Linus Ullmark, also signed an $8.25 million deal. So I think it's funny that still, despite them not being on the team anymore, sharing their iconic goalie hug anymore, having that great relationship that they had on and off the ice, they are still finding ways to complement each other and sort of, stay connected to one each other, signing exactly the same AAVs, just a day or two apart from each other. So I thought that was quite funny for that. But I don't get this deal, at least from Ullmark's perspective. Obviously, for Ottawa's, 8.25 for 4 years to lock up a goalie who is probably a top 10 goalie. He is, but we'll see as he continues to age. He's 31, which I didn't realize he was that old. I knew he was older, but wow. But he is reaching sort of the peak of his career, so we'll see if he can play up to that for the next 4 seasons. Obviously, he signed for 1 more year, so he will have at least 5 seasons with Ottawa unless he is traded or bought out or something like that. But I just don't get why Ullmark would sign this deal, not having played a single game with the Senators and, not having seen what they're doing. I call them the Sabres of the Canadian Sabres. Both franchises have no clue what they're doing. Long playoff droughts. I think Ottawa is at 7 or 8 years now, maybe. So they're catching up on the Sabres. So, which is a scary thought to think that has been that long since their 2017 playoff run. But I just don't get what Ullmark is thinking here, signing this deal. I know you want to be secured and locked up in a place long term, but I don't trust Ottawa. Like I said, I don't think they're going to be good. And from what I've seen, if I'm Ullmark, I haven't seen them do anything this offseason to support me and, give me a good chance to succeed. And we'll see. I mean, he played well when he was coming into the league behind the terrible Sabres teams. So, maybe the Senators team that it is good pieces. It has some good pieces. Shabbat, Sanderson on the back end, and you got an aging Giroux, Norris, Kachuk up front. So we'll have to see in terms of what they can do. But like I said, I wouldn't hold any confidence in the Senators organization. I would have at least waited to the end of the year to see, if they make the playoffs or if they at least attempt to make some changes to suit me. And, especially if I'm Allmark, as I'm aging, I want to go somewhere where I can have a chance to win a Stanley Cup. And I don't think Travis Green and the Ottawa Senators even have a chance to make the playoffs this year. But that's just me. I'm a hater. I'm a cynical. I despise the Senators. So, yeah, I'm not a businessman like Allmark's looking at it from his point of view. So we'll have to see how this season plays out in the next 4 years after that. Another goalie who is signed for long term is Joey Daccord. This one blew my mind when it dropped today. I genuinely couldn't believe it. I had to make sure that this contract was real. Because there was just no way. There's just no way that Joey Daccord could be signed to a 5x5. What is Ron Francis doing? Joey Daccord is a backup goalie, and we're paying him $5 million when we already have a goalie that's he's making close to $5 million for the next 3 years in Grubauer. You're paying two backup goalies almost $10 million to be bad? I mean, what are we doing here? Daccord went 19, 18, and 11 last year, a terrible record. Seattle was not a good team. They were not a good team for a reason, because they didn't have good goaltending. Daccord had, one stellar game, and it was the Winter Classic last year. Just unbelievable. I mean, listen, his save percentage and goals against average, well, his save percentage at least is good. .916, which is in the upper echelon. Don't get me wrong, that stat looks really nice. It does. But next to that record and next to a league average 2.46 goals against average, I mean, it doesn't impress me, especially, again, behind a Seattle team that is not great defensively. I mean, we saw last night how poorly they played. And I mean, some of those goals were on Grubauer, don't get me wrong, but the defensive breakdowns that led to them are not going to help Daccord, and he can't win clearly behind a team that plays this style with Dan Bylsma, of all people, at the helm. So I just don't think, not only is Daccord not good, the style that Seattle plays is not going to help him even be reliable at best. I mean, before last season, he had played 19 games. He had the same amount of wins last year as games played before this. I don't get how you sign a player who has barely played 50 games to a 5x5 when he doesn't even have stats to even come close to backing it up. It's absurd to me. Seattle is throwing around all this money, and especially after last night's performance, I just don't get how you can justify it. And I know I said that I think Seattle has a decent roster and might make the playoffs. That I was failing to put in the most important part of the fact that Dan Bylsma is their head coach. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. The Seattle lineup is very reminiscent of Dan Bylsma's Sabres teams. So I don't get how it could possibly work. I get the West, specifically the Pacific, is a weaker division. But a 5x5 for a backup goalie who's played almost 50 games is absurd. And when it doesn't pan out this year, and they're stuck with two anchor goalies for the next few years, I'm not going to feel sorry for them as a Canucks fan. watching teams impose their own self-destruction in the Canucks division, I don't feel sorry for them. So yeah, Seattle, I don't know what they're doing. Last night didn't inspire confidence in me that they know what they're doing. Again, game 1 of 82, but whatever. We'll see. There's a whole season for a reason, so we'll watch how they go from there, and just sort of what happens with all the players that they paid these absurd contracts to, and how they perform this season. So we'll see if they live up to them. We'll see if Seattle can get into the playoffs like I thought before realizing Dan Bylsma was a coach. And that's on me for not knowing that Dan Bylsma was allowed to be a coach again after the debacle he had with the Sabres. But yeah, one more goalie contract, not signed, but offered to a goalie, was Igor Shesterkin, as Kevin Weeks broke that he declined an $88 million deal, 11 by 8, so $11 million for 8 years, would make him the highest paid goalie of all time, surpassing Carey Price to take that title. And I just think it's frankly greedy. I don't get... Listen, I know he's worth a lot of money. He's a top 5 goalie in the league for a reason, and he's shown that. He's kind of carried the Rangers, at least the last 2 seasons, as they've sort of been on the decline. But, I think $11 million is an absurd amount of the cap for your goalie position, especially when you have to reinforce, an offense that is lacking wingers and sort of just lacking depth in general. So I just, for Igor to not take $11 million, and I know it's, again, the beginning of the season, his contract's not up to the end of the year. He could still sign for close to that, as we saw with Swayman. But, Igor strikes me as the type of player that would hold out and would leave New York for just for a single extra dollar. I feel like he's one of those players that would rather just take the money and doesn't care where he plays as long as he's getting paid. So yeah, we'll see how this contract sort of dispute plays out through the rest of the season. But yeah, I don't expect friendly negotiations from Shesterkin and the Rangers. I do think in the end he'll probably end up with the Rangers, but rejecting to become the highest paid goalie, especially when there's no other goalie that could take that title from you, that's contract is coming up. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that, and we'll see what the Rangers do. And if they can't sign him, I'll laugh at them because it's fun to see the Rangers suffer. So just some quick touches on my 2 teams. Sabres started their season on Friday, and oh boy, was it abysmal. They played terribly in Prague, losing both. JJ, Peterka, and Benson are out. Hopefully going to be in tomorrow. They were skating today at practice, so that's good to see. Abe Kubel is out for 3 to 6 weeks. Yeah, the offense didn't do offense. Lindy Ruff's system offensively just didn't look like there was any oomph to it. It just sort of looked like they were playing a Granato system from last year. No improvement in the power play was abysmal after letting Seth Appert take over. How is it still this bad with this talent on the roster? Defensively, I thought Yoki Haru was awful. He was probably one of the players that we had a great chance of, getting rid of in the offseason. The Sabres extended him. So yeah, and also Luukkonen I don't think played particularly great, but again the defense was terrible in front of him. Levi played really well, so at least there's that. But they play the Kings tomorrow night, so we'll see sort of how that goes. But yeah, an 0-2 start doesn't inspire confidence. The way they play doesn't inspire confidence, and they're going up against a tougher opponent. So we'll see what the season holds, but I was super optimistic. And those 2 games just really took it out of me, and I'm just not looking forward to suffering through another season of no playoffs. So we'll have to see. But luckily for me, I have the Canucks to lean back on. They play tonight against the Calgary Flames. I'm excited to see the Canucks. Excited to see DeBrusk and Sprong playing, real games. Excited to see Ratu and Oman in the lineup. They had great camps. So, some exciting players to see on the Canucks side. And Sheloves gets to start in that. So I'm excited for him. Excited to see him again. Excited to start another year of Canucks hockey. And hopefully the run to the Stanley Cup as I predicted. But that is going to be all for me today. Again, just wanted to do a shorter show. Just sort of talk about some things that happened in the last week as I am a little under the weather today, if you can't tell by my voice and me stumbling around some of my words. That has been all for the 4th episode of Top Left Corner. Excited to get into it as the regular season continues on. Hopefully to get some games soon. So we'll see. Thank you all for listening again, and I'll see you all next week.